All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle those little mistakes that can sometimes get in the way of our great ideas. The common grammar gaffes. We're going to look at just a few simple rules that'll make everything you write feel clearer, stronger, and way more confident.
Oh, we've all been there, right? You've had that sinking feeling. You hit send on a really important email, and then you see it, that one little typo that just makes you cringe. It's a totally universal feeling, but you know what? The good news is it's also super avoidable.
So, let's start with the basics. What even is grammar? It's so easy to think of it as this boring, complicated set of rules just designed to trip us up. But it's actually much more helpful to think of it as, well, a guide. I love this way of thinking about it. In a game like soccer, the rules make sure everyone is playing the same game, that we all know what's going on. Well, grammar does the exact same thing for our language. It's that shared structure that makes sure our ideas are understood exactly the way we mean them. Okay, so let's see how this whole thing gets built, starting with the absolute most fundamental building block of all writing, the sentence. I'm telling you, if we get this part right, everything else gets so much easier. When you boil it all down, every complete thought needs just two things. A who or a what, that's our subject, and an action, that's the verb. Subject plus verb. That's it. That's a complete idea. It's really that simple. So what happens when one of those key pieces goes missing? Well, we get our first common gaffe, the sentence fragment. It's basically an incomplete thought that's just kind of left hanging there. Here's a perfect example. Look at the left, the book under the table. Your brain is immediately asking, okay, and what about it? But by adding just one little word, the verb is, we complete the whole thought. It goes from a confusing fragment to a crystal clear sentence.
Now, we go from not enough information to the complete opposite problem. Way too much information all crammed together. This is the run-on sentence. It's where multiple complete thoughts just sort of collide without any punctuation to separate them.
Your brain kind of has to do a little stutter step here, doesn't it? Rover ate the food, he likes chicken. It feels confusing because you've got two complete ideas. Rover ate the food and he likes chicken, just mashed into one. And the fix is just beautifully simple. A period, a capital letter. That is it. Now we have two clear, separate sentences. The reader knows exactly where one idea stops and the next one starts. No confusion.
Okay, so our sentence structure is feeling solid. Let's zoom in now and talk about the words themselves. Here are three of the most common word mix-ups that can trip up pretty much anyone, even the best writers.
First up, the absolute classic, your versus your. Your shows that something belongs to you. Your is just a shortcut for you are. Here's the only test you'll ever need. If you can't expand it to you are in the sentence, then the right choice is always your. Okay, this one is famously tricky, but here's a really simple way to remember it. Affect starts with an A, and that's for the action. It's a verb. Affect starts with an E, and that's for the end result. It's a noun. So the action affects the outcome, which creates an effect. And finally, then versus than. Then with an E is all about time. Just think of the E and when and then. First this, then that. Then with an A is always for making a comparison. This is taller than that. All right, let's move on to those tiny little marks that have a huge impact on what we're trying to say. Punctuation. You can think of these as the road signs in our writing. They tell the reader when to pause, when to stop, or when to pay close attention. The apostrophe can seem complicated, but honestly, it really only has two main jobs. Job number one, it shows ownership, like the student's grades. And job number two, it fills in for missing letters when we combine words, like turning it is into it's. And now for the one that causes the most head-scratching, the comma. It feels like people either use them everywhere, like confetti, or nowhere at all. So what is their actual job? At its heart, a comma is just a separator. It tells your reader to take a tiny pause. It can separate items in a list, apples, oranges, and pears, or it can separate different parts of a more complex sentence just to make it easier to read and follow. So we've covered sentences, we've covered tricky words, we've covered punctuation. But after all these rules and all these fixes, what's the real goal here? What's the point of it all? This right here. This is probably the most important takeaway of all. Good grammar isn't about being perfect or never, ever making a mistake. It's a tool. It's a tool we use to make sure our ideas come across exactly the way we want them to. It's all about being clear. And what's so fascinating is that these rules aren't set in stone. Language is alive. It's always changing. A great example is how lots of people now say based off, even though based on is technically the correct term. But you know what? Over time, that common usage can actually change the rule. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As our language keeps shifting and growing, what common mistake that we might correct today could actually become tomorrow's accepted rule? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.